much for the introduction, and thank you so much for having me here today. So good morning, good afternoon or evening, and welcome to all of you that are present with us today for this panel on the progress of SDG 17 partnerships for the goals. I'm Professor Patricia Kunrath, an anthropologist from Brazil, and I'm honored to moderate the session. I recently had a short-term experience working for Catalyst 2030, a global movement for collaboration to catalyze the achievement of the 17 SDGs. I remember their message every so often as it is exposed on the website and we discussed in every meeting. And here I quote, the need for collaboration. According to the Social Progress Index, at the current rate of progress, the Sustainable Development Goals will not be achieved by 2082, decades after the deadline set by the UN. The effects of this delay will be devastating for billions, end of quote. In order to change this prognostic, we need to activate partnerships. Brazil, as other parts of the globe, has seen the emergence of initiatives such as SDG strategy, or Estratégia ODS in Portuguese, that brings together civil society, governments, the private sector, and academia to work towards the SDGs, or Catalyst 2030 Brazil, that unites social entrepreneurs and social innovators targeting the SDGs. These initiatives take me back to the opportunities and challenges of multi-stakeholder partnerships for the goals. We know that it's not an easy task to align often divergent interests and even diverse world conceptions to work towards common goals. But several initiatives show that this is the most effective and sustainable way of paving the road for systemic change. And by systemic change, we understand a shift on power relations and increase of collaborations rather than sole competition in a world that is interconnected. I align with feminist philosophers such as Donna Haraway that stands that we have a situated knowledge. For Haraway, and here I quote, situated knowledges are about communities, not about isolated individuals. The only way to find a larger vision is to be somewhere in particular, end of quote. I speak from the standpoint of a Latin American Brazilian woman and scholar working with philanthropy and social investment. And what kinds of articulations and partnerships may I envision from here? In 2020, the group of institutes, foundations, and enterprises, GFI Brazil, published a book titled Collaborative Philanthropy, turning to the theory and practice of partnerships to address social issues and therefore the SDGs. In the formats of collaborations, we might find three scopes. First, collaborative spaces of joint grants and co-investment among social investors focusing on coordination, allocation, or management of funds donations. Among these, we may find giving circles, grant investment, coordination spaces, networks, coalitions and alliances, joint grants, programs and organizations, public-private partnerships, and other intersector partnerships. Second, spaces for mobilizing and managing philanthropy resources, crowdfunding or collective financing, matching gifts, philanthropic resource management organizations. And third, philanthropic funds created and managed by one or more organizations and funds formally constituted as organizations. In Brazil, social justice philanthropy funds such as Brazil Human Rights Fund, Elas Fund, and Baobá Fund make grants and build alliances toward human rights, gender justice, and ethnic or racial equity, and they have been counting with joint efforts and grants from organizations such as the Ford Foundation, Kellogg Foundation, public organs, and civil society. The Lehman Institute and Human Eyes partner up, later aggregating Fundação Brava and República.org to constitute an alliance for impact leaders to capacity build and develop thought leadership, both in the public sector and the third sector. Those are just few examples of what can be done and be achieved if forces and resources are put together. GIF is also promoting the discussion, pushing the agenda, and publishing knowledge material to draw social investment and philanthropy closer to governments, women's rights, sustainable cities, democracy, climate change, water and ethnic or racial equity, among other issues and SDGs that lack being addressed in more effective ways. I believe that the discussion here today will inspire and enlighten us on how to move forward in performing a more just society for all.